If you understand a lot of English, but the words just won't come out of your mouth, you're not alone. And it actually has a lot to do with how our brains handle language. I'm going to share 4 reasons why this happens, and more importantly, what you can do about it, especially if you're aiming for a high score in IELTS speaking. When we say we understand English, we mean listening and reading. These are so-called receptive skills. We receive information. All we need is to recognize what we know, and we can always guess the meaning of some words we don't know from the context, intonation, and other clues. Writing and speaking, however, require you to create language in real time. These are productive skills. And I know a great way to show you the difference between receiving and producing information with 2 simple questions. Ready to try? Number 1. Can you name all the Harry Potter movies in the correct order in 20 seconds? If you're not a fan, try the last 10 movies you watched. Any luck? Now, the second question, is this the correct sequence? I don't think you need 20 seconds to check that. Have you noticed how much harder your brain had to work to produce the information answering the first question? I watched the movies probably 5 times, and it took me a good minute. And this is very similar to what happens when you speak a foreign language. You know the words, you've heard them, but producing them on the spot quickly can be really challenging. But you can't tell another person, oh, wait, give me a minute and I'll give you my reply. There is another interesting concept describing why it's so hard to speak fluently. It's related to the first, but different. Imagine that words are like old friends. Have you ever bumped into someone you went to primary school with? You recognize their face and happily say, hi, and then nothing, because you can't remember their name. You know it, but you can't recall it immediately. And that's exactly what happens with our vocabulary in any language, not just English. We have a large passive vocabulary, like this big circle. Maybe you can recognize 10,000 or more English words when you read or hear them. However, our active vocabulary, the circle inside, is much smaller. You might only be able to use a few thousand words when you write, and particularly when you speak. And this creates a big gap between what you know and what you can actually use. And this happens because our brains store and organize language in multiple ways. When you encounter a word just a few times, it might get stored in the passive memory. But if you don't practice using it actively, speaking or writing it in context, your brain won't develop that strong connection to produce the word effortlessly. Just like with that unlucky childhood friend whose name you've forgotten. It would never happen with the name of a friend you meet each week, right? The third problem I personally used to struggle with quite badly is the fear of making mistakes. I learned English in the classroom, like many of you, I guess. So there weren't many opportunities to speak, especially to speak off the cuff without any preparation. And the skills you don't practice obviously don't develop. It's like learning to ride a bicycle sitting in the classroom. So speaking was my weakest skill, and I felt very self-conscious about making mistakes when I was speaking, particularly to native speakers. Maybe you resonate with this too. And there is another slightly different issue that may be present. Have you ever forgotten what you wanted to say when you were under a lot of stress, maybe in exam conditions? It may happen in your first language too. I know that some of my IELTS students can speak English quite well when they're calm and relaxed, but when they go to their speaking exam and they're suddenly so stressed out that they struggle to speak coherently. Again, there is a scientific explanation for that. High anxiety and fear activate our stress response, and it reduces the effectiveness of the part of the brain responsible for logical thinking and language production. Put simply, if you're too worried about speaking, your brain can't focus and your speaking skills suffer. We'll talk about some really useful exercises that can help you overcome this anxiety. But there is another problem virtually all English learners experience, and we need to discuss it first. Overthinking grammar. Grammar is important, and IELTS examiners do assess your grammar. But thinking about rules while you're trying to speak can slow you down a lot. You might pause and hesitate, and this breaks the natural flow, your fluency. And guess what? The examiners assess your fluency too. Think of it like driving a car while constantly reading the car's manual. Native speakers, on the other hand, usually rely on a natural feel for grammar rather than recalling grammar rules. Quite often, they don't even know those rules. And why does this happen? Because we have two separate systems for language learning. Explicit knowledge, which is all those grammar rules you study, and implicit knowledge, which is this semi-automatic understanding you gain from a lot of exposure and practice. And if you force yourself to rely solely on grammar rules, you end up multitasking, recalling rules, thinking of vocabulary, monitoring pronunciation, and it overloads your brain. When we speak, we use the type of memory as when we ride a bicycle or drive a car. It's hard to start, but at some point, it becomes effortless. I guess you understand that the key to better speaking is practice. But we're gonna go a bit deeper than that. I've selected some proven scientific techniques that can help you improve your speaking skills fast and overcome each problem we've discussed so far. So, how can we make it easier for your brain to speak English? One simple way is to practice micro-conversations. Set a timer for 2 minutes and pick an IELTS speaking part 2 topic, like describe a time when you helped someone. Don't prepare for a full minute like in a real exam. Just read the topic and start speaking. If you have to think about a suitable situation to talk about, think out loud. This forces your brain to quickly retrieve words and structures, mimicking a real speaking scenario. This is quite intense, I know. There is another great tool that is less demanding: shadowing exercises. You listen to a short audio clip, maybe an interview, a podcast, or an IELTS speaking answer, and then immediately repeat what you heard, trying to match the speaker's intonation, speed, and rhythm. By doing this, you train your brain to connect listening with speaking more directly. I actually have a perfect video where you can repeat sample IELTS speaking answers after my friend Alex, who has a beautiful British accent. I'll link it below. And please adopt this rule for yourself from now on. Focus on fluency first, then accuracy. Many learners stop themselves mid-sentence to correct grammar and vocabulary. Try not to do that initially. Just keep going. This helps you develop flow in your speech. Record yourself and review your mistakes afterwards. We'll discuss it in a minute. The next problem we talked about was that our active vocabulary is a lot smaller than our passive vocabulary. And you do need to have enough active words to speak fluently. So, how can you move words from your recognition-only list to your use it anytime list? The best technique is spaced repetition. The app I use to expand my active vocabulary is called Word Up. You can save the words you want to learn, it gives you definitions and phrases. When you click to review your words, it will automatically show each new word the next day, in 3 days, in 7 days, in 1 month, and in 3 months. By reviewing new words at spaced intervals, you strengthen the connections in your brains that help you recall those words faster. Another powerful technique, particularly for IELTS preparation, is learning words in context. Pick a theme, for example, travel. Register at Otter and record a short audio talking about the topic. Let's say your last vacation. I did go to Rome for New Year's. So wait for it to transcribe your answer and copy it. Ask ChatGPT to give you some topic-specific vocabulary to improve this answer. The topic is travel. And paste your answer. I must say the suggestions are great. And you can pick the words you like and ask for definitions. For example, itinerary, accommodation, and vibrant. So here they are, plus some examples. Now give another answer using these words. By using them in context, you move them from passive to active vocabulary. Now, how can you stop thinking about the grammar and just feel what you want to say? The first technique is learning to speak in chunks. This means memorize ready-made phrases and repeat them so many times that they become automatic. For example, I've been living in London for 10 years. The present perfect continues. Create and repeat a lot of similar sentences. I've been studying English for ages. I've been going to the same gym for years. A bit of my exciting life. So repeat this structure enough times and you'll start using it automatically in similar sentences. Next, I did mention that when you're practicing speaking, you shouldn't stop when you make a mistake. Instead, try the delayed grammar correction exercise. If you catch yourself making a grammar error, keep talking. Don't interrupt your fluency. Instead, record your answer using Otter if you can, then post it to ChatGPT and ask it to give you a list of grammatical mistakes. Select the most common ones and repeat the correct phrases enough times to remember them. And actually, the listen and repeat exercise we discussed before is also very useful. Over time, you'll start internalizing the grammar patterns or producing chunks of speech automatically without having to think about grammar rules. Even with these exercises, mistakes are not going to disappear in a day. So how can you speak more freely without feeling all this anxiety? The first step is a mindset shift. Mistakes are normal and even necessary for improvement. Embrace that spirit of gradual improvement instead of worrying about perfection. You can pass your IELTS test while making some mistakes. You can get a band 8 in your speaking and still make some mistakes. And also, don't let the IELTS speaking exam be the first time you speak English in months. Instead, speak a little every day or a few times a week. Stay consistent. Little and often is better than rarely and for a long time. Even 10 minutes of speaking practice every day will help you build fluency faster than one long session. Think of it like going to the gym. Regular workouts make you stronger than doing a massive workout once in a blue moon, which will probably make you sore and unlikely to go back. You can practice your speaking skills on your own. You can find a speaking partner. For example, on our Telegram channel, we publish a post about it every month. Or hire a teacher on Cambly if you can afford. But don't overwhelm yourself by trying to fix everything at once. Pick 1 or 2 areas to focus on. If your biggest issue is fear of making mistakes, start there. If you feel like you have a big vocabulary, but you can't remember words when you speak, start activating those words. Language learning is a journey, not a one-day project. You will make mistakes along the way, and that's perfectly normal. Focus on progress, not perfection. And if I've inspired you to start practicing, try this listen and repeat video where you can repeat some IELTS speaking answers. I think it's really useful. And thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!